In another place, Srila Guru Maharaj called it like transcendental espionage. That means that if you want to see something more clearly, actually the strategy is you approach it from indirect from the side. You might have experienced there's something to do with the optics. You think on the blind spot, on the retina of the eye, which means if you look at a particular item, I've actually practiced this myself. If, say, for example, if you look at, there's a bright star in the sky at night, but if you look at that star directly, straight on, it's not so clear, it's indistinct, it's fuzzy. If you look slightly to the side of that star, somehow the impression of it is appearing very clearly in your consciousness. You experience that?
Like from the side?
Yeah. Not moving your head, but looking to the side of the object that you're looking to see, not directly at it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's a blind spot in the eye, so when you look to the side, it actually appears more clearly and distinct in the vision. So it's something like that with Krishna consciousness. If we try to look directly straight on, then he disappears. Because the nature of Krishna is that he's very... we will hear about this when I read about it. But he's not like other aspects of the Lord in general, which it's kind of more constitutionally what you put in is what you get out, you know. You offer some praise, some service, and you get some results, some blessing and something. Krishna, not like that. He's very capricious, very whimsical, playing hide and seek all the time, you know. His nature is chora. Chora means a thief. He likes to come hiddenly and take things by stealth. So that's why Srila Govinda Maharaj says a revolutionary mood of Krishna.
Otherwise, someone would be able to control him by pious activities.
Exactly. A peculiar position, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. The Lord is everywhere, only we need to have the real eye to see him. He's everywhere. There's no place where he's not present. This was actually taken from, he was telling about how he was speaking to one man, probably many years before this, in a talk, in a conference. And he was saying to the man like this, but then he said, is there anywhere where he's absent? So I've left that out because it doesn't look well in the script, in the text. But that's what he said to the man. Is there anywhere where he's absent? No. The answer, no. But he says, I'm everywhere. At the same time, I'm nowhere. Everything is in me. Nothing is in me, Arjuna. Try to understand my peculiar position, who I am. Maya tatam vidang sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nacha antesh avashtita. I've referenced these verses from the Gita, chapter 9, verses 4 and 5. That's verse 4. This entire universe is pervaded by me in my unmanifest form. All beings are situated in me, yet I am not in them. Nachamatstani bhutani pasya me yogam aishvaram bhuta brinnacha bhutosto mamatma bhuta bhavana. And yet, they're not in me. Previous verse he just said, all beings are situated in me. Now he says, and yet they're not in me. Behold my mystic opulence, my supreme power of inconceivable oneness and difference. I am the maintainer and origin of all beings, yet I am not in them. In the case of the material elements, this is an example to help to understand this inconceivable tattva. The ether, it is present everywhere and everything is in it, but still the other elements are not ether, and ether is not them. It is something like that. Krishna says, Jata mahanti bhutani bhuteshu chavachesh anu pravishtan apravishtani tata teshu nateshaham. This is from Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, chapter 9, verse 35. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. Distinction and non-distinction. Mahaprabhu described it achinta bhed abhed. There is something common and something different. Distinction and non-distinction between one thing and another. This is the general characteristic of everything. One step below. The direct connection with him, with the Lord, that is not possible for us. I've put at present, because it might be possible for somebody sometime. So our Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, told, think that you are one step lower. Your Guru, he is there in direct connection with him, and you are just below, on the step below, and from there you are trying to carry out his order. Don't try to have direct connection with him. That advice was a great help to me. It is a peaceful position, because if from the front you will always be searching, very keenly searching for the Lord, but not finding him, you'll be unsatisfied. It is not possible to find him, and that is very troublesome. But rather from behind, from the second step, that is peaceful, to go on searching according to your Guru's order, thinking that I'm not in direct connection with the Lord, but my Guru is in direct connection with him, and according to his advice, I'm going on with service, with faith that the Lord is there. That is a peaceful attitude, a safe position, and it is also recommended by both Shastra and Sadhu. So take that position. Don't try to stand in direct connection with the Lord, but a little indirect. Indestructible connection. Kunti Devi wanted unfavourable circumstances, materially. She considered that as favourable for his relationship, Divya Darshan, his real connection. Our calculation generally may be for favourable circumstances. So you might say, okay, he's everywhere and nowhere, simultaneously and inconceivably. But if we think things are favourable, he's nowhere. And if things are unfavourable, then he might be everywhere within our vision. Why? She invited danger in life so that when we are helpless, disappointed, under pressure from every direction, naturally our search will go towards him for solution. Our self-forgetfulness, surrender, will be increased. So such adverse circumstances may be favourable for us, for our spiritual life. In any case, na vinashyati. Once coming in connection with Krishna, no destruction can come to that person. I've done some footnotes here. Na vinashyati, no destruction. And this from Bhagavad Gita 6.40, the verse. Sri Bhagavan Uvach, Pata Naiveya Namutra Vinashash, there's the word Vinashash, Tasya Vidite, Nahi Kalana Krit Kaschit Durgatim Tatagachati. Second line, quoted very much by Srila Guru Maharaj. Nahi Kalana Krit Kaschit Durgatim Tatagachati. Guru Maharaj often quoted this line, yes, okay, to show Krishna's mercy on the sincerely aspiring soul, that they will never meet destruction. The full translation of this verse appears in his rendition of Bhagavad Gita, Hidden Treasure of the Sweet Absolute, as follows. The Supreme Lord said, O Arjun, son of Kunti, there is no loss for the unsuccessful yoga practitioner, as he's not denied the happiness of the heavenly plane in this world, nor is he denied the chance of the fortune to see the super soul in the transcendental realm. In this world means in this Brahmanda, this universe. This is so, O dear one, because a person who performs virtuous actions never suffers an ill fate. So, as usual there, Guru Maharaj is sort of an extended translation. It's almost like a paraphrase. Extended translation with this sort of explanation also inside there. But Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in his Bhagavad Gita as it is, gives a very concise translation as follows. The Blessed Lord said, "Son of Prita, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil." Note, Srila Prabhupada dedicates Bhagavad Gita as it is to Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, who was a Shiksha disciple of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Both of these acharyas made translations with commentary of Sri Gita entitled Sri Gita Bhushan and Sarata Varshini Tika, respectively, with which Srila Prabhupada was certainly conversant. Interestingly, Srila Chakravarti Thakur gives this verse of the Gita 640, this is his translation, "O son of Prita, he does not meet destruction in this life or the next. One who has done the auspicious work of yoga does not meet an unfortunate end, O my son." And he comments, "He does not have destruction in this life, iha, means now, or the next, amutra. Having performed yoga, which gives auspiciousness, kalyana krit, auspicious, you've heard of kalyana kalpataru, the fulfilling tree of devotion. That was a magazine by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Kalyana Kalpataru, I believe, in his time, yeah. So giving auspiciousness, he doesn't attain a destination of suffering. Okay. Slight digression there. So, Tatra Vishalpa Sambandh, any connection, slightest connection with him, that will save you, definitely. Because whatever little connection we get with him, that is invulnerable to the extreme. Nothing can oppose or crush, destroy that. It is of such quality. Tatra Swalpa Sambandhas. Okay, Swalpa, Alpa means little, and it's SV, but it's actually Su, S-U, Alpa, Su Alpa. But when you put it together in Sanskrit, it becomes Svalpa. It means a very little. So very little, Sambandh, connection, relation. Band means to join together. Bind, English word bind, from band, sambandh. So a little, any small connection with him is indestructible. It is of such quality. Even a connection with Vaikuntha, even with Brahma or Paramatma, that also cannot be destroyed. And I've given the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1-11. Vedanti tat tatvividas tatvama jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdite. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan, meaning God is realized in three phases, as all-pervading Brahman by the Jnanis, so their process is elimination, neti, 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 it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. What is it? What is the underlying substratum, the Brahma, the Brahman? So that's the Jnanis, all-permeating Paramatma, Supersoul, by the yogis, and as Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the devotees. It is of such quality, none can stand fighting against him. Though it may be very little connection with him, his nature is such that ultimately he will conquer all. All others will have to retire. They cannot stand in competition with him. Mam hi pata vyapashritya jepishu papa yonaya striya vaishas tata shudras tepi janti parangatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, merchants, or labourers, attain the supreme destination. That's Gita 9:32. If any mal thing, that's Guru Maharaj's way of speaking, mal thing means bad thing. But I've left it because it's very clear what it means, but it's kind of old language. If any mal thing has a connection with him, that also is delivered and goes to him. Those without such connection will be finished through reaction, means through their own karmic reactions. fruit of their own karma. But in his connection, there is no reaction. Don't deceive yourself. Okay, on this whole theme of this chapter is about the elusiveness of Krishna, really. Yeah. So it's not such an easy thing. Many people claiming many things. I know something about Krishna, I've seen Krishna, etc. What does it mean to see Krishna? There was one man who lived on the banks of the Ganges here about 40 years ago. So this talk was given 1985, minus 40 is 1945. So this is about 4 years after Srila Sridhar Maharaj came to live in Kologanj, Navadip. That would be 1945, yes. VE Day, last day of the war. So this man, he was living near when Guru Maharaj just came and settled there in Navadip. One day this man approached me and said, "I've seen Krishna." I told him, "To do so is not such a cheap thing. Don't say so to me. Go to some other person." No, I've seen him. And not only I've seen him, but I've shown him to many others here. He went on with this kind of mad talk. I told him, "We've made some study. We've got some understanding about what is Krishna and how to see him. What are the signs or symptoms of that? All such things. So do not believe that like any ordinary person, I shall follow you to see Krishna. But it is true, I showed him to so many." "Yes, you might have seen some monkeys." So I put the footnote. Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying, not without irony. He's being sarcastic. I didn't want to say sarcastic, because that's not very nice. It's the lowest form of wit. I said, not without irony. "Yes, you might have seen, perhaps, some monkeys playing in the distance and deluded yourself that you had seen the pastimes of Krishna. Krishna is not such a thing that will come like that to your physical eyes." I spoke to him in this way. Then that gentleman went away. Again, when he came with the same story, I told him, "Why are you deceiving yourself? Do you know who is Krishna and who can see him? And after seeing him, what will be the condition of that person? Do you know? Some general knowledge about this do you have? You know yourself how you are troubled by lust, anger, greed, so many such things which are within you. And you say you are a Brahmin's son, and yet with that fortunate human birth you are wasting it. You are deceiving others and yourself. Don't deceive yourself." This created some impression in him that day. And after thinking about it for some days, he left everything. He took off his female dress and cut off his long hair. I had to give a footnote there, right? Because, what? This is Westerners and or newcomers to the path of Krishna Bhakti, devotion to Krishna, might be shocked to hear of such an extreme aberration of the path of devotional service. Males adopting female dress, hair, ornaments, and all such particulars, and imagining themselves thus as gopis, female milkmaids in love with Krishna. But such groups have existed, particularly since the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Claiming to be the true followers of his teachings, they are, however, sahajiya or imitationists, and their many misconducts gave a bad name to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Their complete misunderstanding, based on a mixing of spiritual conception with the mundane, taking Krishna prema, love of Krishna, to be the same as kama, material lust, was totally repudiated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, 1838 to 1914, in his writings, and vigorously opposed and defeated by his illustrious son and disciple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, 1874 to 1936, the founder of Sri Gaudiya Math. Srila Sridhar Maharaj also is renowned for his strict adherence to the true line of Sri Chaitanya Dev and rejection of all such sahajiya notions in theory and practice. So this man, he changed his appearance, and he came back. Yes, what you've said, it is true. I'm still a slave of my senses. How can I get Krishna so easily? And he requested me for Diksha, initiation. But one godbrother of mine was here at that time, and he gave caution that don't do so. He is a hypocrite. Today he has come to you. Tomorrow or another day he will run to some other person, some other clan. Don't believe him. So I avoided that. So Krishna is not so easy to be seen or to be attained, to be caught within the fist. Quote unquote. He is everywhere and he is nowhere. Everything is in him and nothing is in him. He is such. He says, I'm everywhere, I'm nowhere. Everything is in me and nothing is in me at the same time. Those verses we read before. So the search for Krishna, it is with this background. So it's almost like we're to have almost distrust of ourselves, that, in our perception, our faulty perception. But if forcibly Krishna will come to us by his sweet will, then that's another thing. Then that will be irresistible. And probably that's something you wouldn't want to talk about anyway, or advertise, like that man. No demand. The higher devotees feel that even desiring to see the Lord is also some kind of enjoyment. They say, no, we won't disturb his sweet will. Whenever he likes, he may call for us. Then we shall get the chance to see him, otherwise not. We want Krishna, but not to order him, "Oh Krishna, come and stand before us." We want to see you for our satisfaction. This is a kind of imposition by our exploiting nature. The devotees do not want that for the satisfaction of their eye or their inner hankering, the Lord has to come and show himself. That is not the conception of the higher devotees. They do not allow these thoughts to enter. No, whenever Krishna feels the necessity, he will call for me. I shall then have the chance of seeing him. The higher kind of devotees never desire Krishna to serve them, supply them, or give them darshan of himself. To impose our whim on the Lord is not service proper. Whatever Krishna likes, he may do. We shall consider ourselves fortunate if we are given a chance to supply whatever is necessary for his service. We are to place ourselves fully at the disposal of that supreme autocrat who is to command us, to order us, and never to carry out any order from us. But the Lord's nature is like that. He is eager to supply everything for his devotees. Again, another paradox of Krishna consciousness. But they do not like that he will serve them. Krishna says, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana parupashate tesha nitya bijuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyaham. That's from Bhagavad Gita 9:22. I bear the responsibility of acquiring and protecting the necessities of my fully dependent devotees who are always absorbed in thought of me and who worship me in every way. In Bhagavad Gita, as it is, Prabhupada says, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. But I like this translation, actually, I like it better. Yeah. Still, devotees of higher realization do not prefer Krishna to supply them with anything or serve them in any way. Their Ananya Bhakti, their purest devotion, is of this quality. They sincerely feel, he is our Lord through faith. We don't want to see him in order to satisfy our lower faculties that he does indeed exist. We've got no capacity to see him. A lower kind of faith means trying to become the subject and making him the object. So make him the object of our vision. Oh, if I see him, then he must exist. Hello. A higher kind of faith, a more intense faith, proves that he is the original subjective cause of everything. A place in the harmony. How to maintain one's position within the current of Krishna consciousness, that is to be known. That current is always flowing, and to maintain one's position within it requires some force, some energy. So it's not that we are creating Krishna consciousness by what we're doing. So I'm chanting and I'm trying to do some service and all these things, and that's creating Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is there. It's the truth, the reality, the deepest, most fundamental reality. Even the Golok conception, as Guru Maharaj says. Actually, he said this, but I discovered this phrase from Saint Bonaventure, who was one of the early successors of Saint Francis of Assisi. But Saint Francis of Assisi, he wasn't a theologian. He's a very simple man, you know. So he didn't give any particular theological thesis or in his writing. Some beautiful poems he wrote, like Canticle of the Sun. You might have heard Brother Sun, Sister Moon. You might have seen the film, yeah? Franco Zaffarelli, he made a film. He's saying Brother Sun, Sister Moon, Brother Fire, Sister Water, like all the elements, seeing as manifestation of the Lord's energy. That's actually technically called panentheism. It's not pantheism, which means God is directly everything, like Spinoza's philosophy. Nature is God. So a lot of people like that, like Gaia conception. But it's God in everything as a manifestation. A little different, or very different. But his successor, Saint Bonaventure, he was a bishop and he was very intellectual, very clever. So he wrote a lot of philosophy. So he said, the center is everywhere, nowhere circumference. So this conception that Guru Maharaj, whether he got it from there or he read it, but he said, like this, that's our conception. The center is everywhere. Not we're here and the center is like over there or up there somewhere. The universe is, 8 billion miles across, as we learn from the Bhagavatam. Then you have the coverings of the universe, then the Brahma, Mahatattva, then the Brahma Jyoti, and then the spiritual Shiva Lok, then Paravyam, Vaikuntha planets, then Golok. So it's like linearly over there, somewhere far away. No, the center is everywhere. It's not a spatial, temporal thing of our understanding. Center is everywhere, nowhere circumference. So I thought of an example of that myself was if you have an old car. Have you seen an old car and the windscreen is very scratched? So if you look at that windscreen with a light coming through, say from a street light or something, so whichever angle you look, it seems like there's a center and everything radiating out, the marks on the glass. So you say, that's the center there. But then you look from there, there also, there also, right? So the center is everywhere. You know what? I don't know if you've ever driven an very old car with this old scratched windscreen, and you see how the marks, there's on the glass, there's scrapings on the glass. So whatever angle you look at the windscreen, it seems like you're looking at a point, and it's radiating out in circles from there. So you think, that's the point. But then if you look slightly that way, again, it's the same, and the same from everywhere. So that center is everywhere, and nowhere circumference. So that's so the Krishna consciousness is existing, and it's a question of whether we're in that flow or we're not. Because the jiva, tatashta jiva, we can either be in the flow of the Svarup Shakti, the higher energy, that's as Bhakti Thakur says, the centrifugal force going in towards the center, towards Krishna, or we can enter into the centripetal force, spinning out away from the center, the Maya Shakti. Though this attempt to maintain oneself is apparently static, it also requires effort. It is dynamic. In this sense, no progress is progress, especially in relation with the infinite. So I felt that needed a little bit of explanation. This point about maintaining ourselves in Krishna consciousness. So just as a person, when floating in the current of a river, so the current's already there, okay, so the person is in the river, by various movements is able to maintain themselves in that flow and avoid being drawn to either bank and deposited thereupon. It may seem to a casual observer that the person is not doing anything. A little bit, they're just kind of moving a little bit, right? But in fact, they are engaged in an ongoing dynamic, though subtle movement. In this sense, in Krishna consciousness, to maintain oneself, no progress is progress. So to explain this further, right? Another analogy. So in the very beginning of our devotional practicing life, where we're learning to act for Krishna, because that's our constitutional position of our soul to do so, it seems very difficult because for lifetimes the conditioned soul has been acting for its self-interest, for exploitation. So it's like cranking an engine to start. It's very hard. It seems to be going against the grain, going against our self-will is always going towards exploitation, our own enjoyment, yeah? Not acting for the enjoyment and satisfaction of the Lord. So we're doing the opposite thing, and it's like cranking an engine to get it going in another direction. It's very hard. But when the engine is running, then the business is to maintain the motion, and that is by certain actions that do not outwardly appear very dynamic. Just like applying a little oil here and there, adjusting some parts. So like you have the maintenance engineer, right? He comes in every day and he has to do the things, make sure everything's running. But those actions are very significant. They protect the machine from breaking down. If they didn't do that, 3-4 days, the thing would break down, for sure. So in devotional terms, these maintenance activities are the regular activities of sadhana bhakti, devotional practicing life, but most particularly a vigilance to protect the growing plant of devotion, bhakti lata, from various weeds which will choke it or suck the energy meant to nourish it and take it for their own interest. So you're watering the plant, this bhakti beej, right, by hearing, chanting, and all the activities. That's like watering your seed of devotion and make it sprout and grow. But that watering, that nourishment, is also, there's seeds of weeds also there. They will also grow up. And they can, if you're not very vigilant in pulling them out, they will grow stronger than the bhakti lata, and they will crush it. They will suck the energy meant for it, or also strangle it, So, and examples of these weeds, they're mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Over-collecting, atyahara means over, not just money, but money, of course, but just general material acquisition, yeah? And over-interest in worldly matters, associating with materialists or impersonalists, and so on. And these are fully explained more in Upadeshamrit. What are the things positive and what are the things negative? So, and to maintain one's position in unfavourable circumstances, that is not very easy. But vipralamba, separation from the Lord, that is rather more powerful. The pain for harmony, that I'm not having any place in the harmony. You're feeling dislocated, right? Dislocated from the flow of Christian consciousness. It is a very peculiar thing. The greatest necessity for him, that is he himself. So if you think you've got him, you haven't got him. As St. Augustine also said, the more you think you have him, then that's because how can the finite capture the infinite? So that's not him, for sure. But if you feel separation, that hankering for him, that very hankering is a manifestation of he himself. That in itself fulfills the necessity to approach him, to come to him, is to get him. And there's an explanation here. The feeling of separation from the Lord is more powerful than, quote, feeling his presence, unquote. As absence makes the heart grow fonder, so the union felt in separation from the Lord, though outwardly appearing very painful, internally produces a deep and intense ecstasy. Vipralamba, union in separation, was both taught and demonstrated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the highest and most desirable attainment in Krishna consciousness. Note, to cultivate Krishna consciousness in the mood of separation is also the safe path to avoid the possibility of imitation, sahajiavad, as the previous story of the monkey seer illustrates. Yeah. I didn't want that to sound like Hanuman, monkey seer, because he's a monkey seer, he's a sage, yeah? But I think it's clear. Again, as mentioned here, this truth, that the intense desire for the Lord is itself a manifestation of him, has been expressed by savants of different faith traditions. St. Gregory of Nyssa, 335 to 395 AD, by the way, if you're interested, he wrote, "To find God is to seek him unceasingly. Here, indeed, to seek is not one thing, and to find another." And St. Catherine of Siena wrote in her dialogues, "You are a mystery as deep as the sea. The more I search, the more I find. And the more I find, the more I search for you. But I can never be satisfied. What I receive will ever leave me desiring more. When you fill my soul, I have an ever greater hunger, and I grow more famished for your light." Then back to the text. "I once delivered a lecture at a meeting in Madras, Chennai, now, where some scholars of the Madhva school had made arrangement to honour the birthday of Madhvacharya. In case you don't know anything about Madhvacharya, here it comes. Srila Madhvacharya, 1238 to 1317, great Vaishnava devotee of Krishna. He is renowned Acharya in one of the 4 recognized Vaishnava Sampradayas, lineages, that originating from Lord Brahma. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, showing the example of an ideal devotee, took his diksha from Sri Ishwar Puri in the Madhva line. Some say he did so because among the Vaishnava lineages, Sri Madhvacharya, with his Shuddha Advaita, pure dualism teaching, most distinctly expressed the jiva souls as being different from the Supreme Lord. Traditionally, he is depicted holding his right hand aloft with forefinger and second finger spread apart like this, Atma Paramatma. All the Vaishnava Sampradayas accept service to the Lord as the verity, and therefore oppose the idea of the soul and the Lord's absolute oneness, Kevala Advaita Vad, the monism propounded by Sri Shankaracharya, 788 to 820. Madhva fought with and defeated many Shankarite scholars. His main mart or foundation is in Udupi, Karnataka, and the worship of Krishna he propounded was of Bal Krishna. Krishna is a very young child, that is in the mood of Vatsalya or parental affection. The followers in the Madhva line are known as Tattvavadis. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the lineage has been known as the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, Gaudiya from Gaudadesh, or Bengal, where Mahaprabhu appeared. So a lot of these notes will be clear to people who have some experience about Krishna consciousness, but for those who don't know or aren't familiar with Srila Guru Maharaj's teachings,
put in a C note, like a star, with comments on that.
Can you?
Would you?
What?
When you be?
Yeah, of course, yeah. The footnotes.
Yeah.
With the advent of Sri Chaitanya Dev, the worship of Radha Krishna in the mood of conjugal love, Madhurya Rasa, manifested, actually Madhavendra Puri, and there are some other differences, or rather developments, which Mahaprabhu and his descendants brought to the lineage. Madhvacharya was a staunch and indomitable Vaishnava, unwavering in his principles, which were like lines carved in stone. He gave a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, but omitted chapters 13 and 14 of Canto 10, in which the Brahma Vimohan Leela, the bewilderment of Lord Brahma by Krishna in Vrindavan, is described. That is, how the founding father and original guru of the lineage, Lord Brahma, was so easily put into illusion by Krishna. Srila Madhvacharya was also possessed of great physical strength. He's said to be an incarnation of Sri Vayu, the wind god. So that's it. So then Sridhar Maharaj was at this meeting on the appearance day of Madhvacharya. They made me president at the meeting, and Nagaraj Sharma, a professor of the Madhva school, was to deliver lectures there. At the beginning of the meeting, I gave some introductory talk, and there I mentioned about Mahaprabhu's teaching, Trinad api sunichena, taror aviva sahishnuna, manina manadena, kirtaniya sada hari. Sikshastakam 3. One who is humbler than a blade of grass, more forbearing than a tree, who gives due honour to others without desiring it for himself, is qualified to always chant the holy name of Krishna. Then, when Professor Sharma gave his lecture, I traced there a slight touch, a remark, that to think one's own self to be meaner than a blade of grass, what is the achievement there? To think oneself to be very low, very mean, how can that be the means to attain the higher things? A slight remark of this kind I caught. So Guru Maharaj isn't going to let that go. So it says, then afterwards, at the conclusion of the meeting, again I got the chance to speak, and I mentioned, who can see himself as small, as mean, is in the relativity of the big. The jiva soul can only think of himself as lowest of the lowest when he is having the conception of the infinite. As much as he can have some conception of the infinite, he cannot but think himself in comparison as meanest of the mean. So real realization is measured by this standard. This is all on the theme of about, remember the chapter is about the strategy of our search. So it's all about this idea about seeing Krishna and, what can the soul see? Who sees himself as big, he will see other things as small. But when he's living in the infinite, he will feel himself as smallest of the small, meanest of the mean. He cannot but do so. That is the real criterion of our improvement on our journey towards consciousness of the infinite, towards him. Mahaprabhu's Samadhi. Vipralamba, separation from the Lord. As much connection as we get with him, so much our hankering must be intensified. Oh, he is so good, so beautiful, so captivating, so charming. Such will be the sign, the symptom of the soul's development and proximity to him. And the opposite, the negative side, that I've got him, that will be rather to be like dreaming. That is not normal, rather it is abnormal, we should think. In Chaitanya Charitamrita there is a description. Jikale vasvapane dekinu bangshi vadane se kale oila du vani ananda aramadan hari nila moraman dekite na painu netra bhari. Madhya 237. Whenever I had the chance to see Lord Krishna's face and his flute, even in a dream, two enemies would appear before me. They were pleasure and Cupid, and since they took away my mind, I was not able to see the face of Krishna to the full satisfaction of my eyes. Mahaprabhu says that that's the translation in the text from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then Guru Maharaj's paraphrasing, explanation, illumination. When I got him, Mahaprabhu was saying, when I got him in a dream, that was not normal. I was in an abnormal position. He came and united with me. That seems to me to be like a dream. It is a peculiar thing. In the ocean of viraha, separation, the soul is always unsatisfied, but when there is meeting, there is union. There is for the time being a wonderful experience of satisfaction, but that is not permanent. So Mahaprabhu said that was like a dream. But rather the experience that others are enjoying with the Lord and I am marking it from a distance. This second position, this can be more permanent, and that is satisfying. What was Mahaprabhu's experience? He is giving description to the devotees that in his transcendental condition, samadhi, he saw that he is in Govardhan, and there are the gopis and Krishna, and he is seeing how the gopis are arranging, devising in different ways for Krishna's service, and what is their mood, and how they're going to be united with him. And Mahaprabhu told, I was seeing all this with great pleasure. When I saw all these arrangements for the gopis' union with him, I felt I was swimming in the innermost and purest type of pleasure. So he feels himself to be not in direct connection with Krishna, but as an outsider, an onlooker, from one step further behind, and that can have permanence and give fullest satisfaction. Then Mahaprabhu told the devotees, oh, the beauty of their movements, the sweet sound of their ornaments, how beautiful it is. I was seeing it. At that time you all took me away from there to this material world by chanting the name of Krishna, by that kolahol, by the noise of the sound of the name of Krishna. You drew my attention to this place of affliction. You've made me disappointed. You've taken me away from that happy connection. In samadhi, as if like in a dream state, Mahaprabhu had this experience of Krishna Leela. So I put in the note, because elsewhere then Guru Maharaj explained like this in his, when he was talking about the holy name in Search for Sri Krishna, the book. The word Mahaprabhu used for the noise made by the devotees chanting, as given in this verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and quoted here as kolahol, which we might render in English as cacophony or even racket, a disharmonious, disturbing sound, like kitchen pots being clashed together. This shows the extraordinarily deep samadhi absorption of the Lord in Krishna Leela. Because who was doing this kolahol, this chanting of Krishna's name? They were not only great devotees, but also parshadas, eternal associates of the Lord, participants directly in Lord Gauranga's Leela. So as eternally liberated souls, their vibration of the holy name was certainly pure, Shuddha Nam. And yet Mahaprabhu heard it as a noise, pulling him out of the most beautiful experience, and he expressed his distress and disappointment. Then, as Srila Sridhar Maharaj elsewhere points out, what can we think of the nature, the purity of our own chanting?
Those are Guru Maharaj's words.
No, that's mine.
But Guru Maharaj says a very similar thing in
Yeah.
Volcano, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it Golden Volcano?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So, secret of success. So it is indirect, like a telescopic system. What is far, far away, only by seeing through many lenses, which have some apparent gap, some distance between them, we can have some idea about that. So I've put this telescopic system is referring to the Guru Parampara. Each master in the bona fide lineage is a transparent via medium, like a clear lens through which the disciple can see the object of his search. And just as the more lenses are added in the telescope, the more magnified and clear is the image, so the more gurus through whom the disciple is serving, if they are, of course, really pure, like a clear lens and not opaque, the clearer the image. And because the Guru Parampara is a living system, each one is contributing also from their own realization. It is a spiritual truth. Materially speaking, the greater number of things between myself and a distant object, the greater the obstacles, but here just the opposite. Although there is some distance in space and time between one lens, one guru, and the next, in effect there is none. In Indian philosophy, this is known as Satapatra Veda Nyaya, the logic of 100 leaves. If you pass a needle through 100 leaves, which are all pressed together, although there is some distance between the leaves, practically the needle passes through them all simultaneously. Another point to note in the subject of spiritual magnification is the fact that unlike material or mundane topics, news, etc., which the more they're discussed become tasteless, hackneyed and old, spiritual talks about the holy names, forms, qualities, pastimes and associates of Krishna, Harikatha, and devotional service become more and more relishable. They increase rather than decrease. That is so for the devotees and the pious, of course, not the impious or demoniac. The example is the mango, which is said to become more tasteful when it is tasted by the parrot. Srimad Bhagavatam is for the Vaishnavas, Nigama Kalpitor Galitam Phalam, the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. And when it was tasted, heard, received by Shukadev Goswami, Shuka means parrot, and delivered by him to Maharaj Pariksit, it became sweeter still. So that's about that. And it is the way, Tadasha, back to the text, Dasha Dasa Anudas Aham Dehi, to serve the servant of the servant's servant of the Lord. It is a peculiar thing, not to approach directly. If I go to see directly, I can't see, it is so far, but only with the help of the telescope, in which there are so many glasses between ourself and that for which we are looking, I can have some idea. Just as with the sun, we can see him from a particular distance, but if we want to see him from nearer, we'll be finished. Approaching towards him will be finished on the way. So adjustment is such. Always we will look from behind the Guru and the Vaishnava, and with this strategy we can have some experience. And the ideal of the followers of Mahaprabhu, that is submission to the greatest seer, Radharani, Radhadasya, always behind her, or in other rasas, behind him, behind Krishna, behind him or behind her. From that position we are to have a sight of him. That is Yoga Karmashu Kaushalam, the strategy, the trade secret, the secret to success. It is the testing point to guide us. Oh yeah, I've just given the verse from Bhagavad Gita where that is, that Yoga Karmashu Kaushalam. It's from 250. Buddhi Yukto Jahatiha Ube Sukrita Duskrite Tasmad Yogaya Jujashpa Yoga Karmashu Kaushalam. The wise person engaged in devotional service abstains from both good and bad actions in this world. Engage yourself therefore in yoga, O Arjuna, as yoga is the art of all work. Do we have to finish at 8, is it? Okay. Okay, a bit more. So Krishna the thief. You've heard this already from, is that in Search Sri Krishna? About that story about Krishna being the thief. But this is, I think this is another, it's not from that talk. It's another talk because it's a lot of, unless they've condensed it in there. But so Krishna is everywhere, but we can't see him. What he said was on the tape was, so Krishna is everywhere, but we can't see him. What is the fun? I thought that was, I didn't want to put that because it's difficult in English for people to understand that, you know. In Indian talk, you know, say, what is the fun? It means Krishna is everywhere, but we can't see him. What's that? You know, that's a bit unfair, isn't it? You know, everything is in him, and he's everywhere, and we cannot see him. He said, what is the fun? A peculiar thing. Really, he is the existence of existence. He's maintaining all existence. He is at the back of all existence, but that is lost to us. Sometimes the Lord likes to play hide and seek with the devotees. Sometimes he comes clear, and sometimes he's vague. Whenever he's vague, the devotees begin to cry, "Where are you, my Lord? I don't feel you. I cannot see you. How can I continue my life? How can I live without you? You are so charming, so joyous, so fulfilling, that I cannot live without your connection." But because Krishna is a thief, we have hope. And there's a verse here which I'm still looking for. Rupa Siddhang Navanita Choram Gopang Gananam Chaduka Chodam. Don't know the rest. To steal everything is his habit. Chor. He's always stealing. His nature, his very existence also may be conceived as a thief. So that's very different than Narayan, right? Or other incarnations. Now, Lord Narayan, Lord Ramachandra, all of them. They're sort of more constitutional, more predictable. That you give something and you get something. But this, no. A thief comes and goes stealthily. His activity is always undercover, unknown, stealthy. Krishna's nature, his existence, is like that. When he comes as a thief. When I was a student in Bahampur College, I went to hear a lecture from some gentleman, a Goswami, and I remember he said, because Krishna is a thief, we have some hope. How? Because we can invite to our house big men, but they may not have time to come. Big men. Important figures in society, lawyers, councillors, mayors, presidents, etc. In Indian colloquial usage, often called big shots. Big men. But a thief, even we try to avoid him by erecting high walls, employing durwans, gatekeepers, and so on. But still, uninvited, stealthily, he comes and finishes his duty. So our nature is such that we've erected so many boundary walls that none can enter. Of course, in those days it would be just probably durwans, a gatekeeper or something, a padlock on the gate, gatekeeper in a little house, with a stick. Now they have razor wire, dogs, Rottweilers, trip sensors, CCTV, and everything. So we may have erected many boundary walls that none can enter, and God cannot enter. But because Krishna is a thief, he enters our heart and captures it. And that is our advantage, that he's a thief. He comes uninvited. We may put thousands of barriers to obstruct his coming, but a thief manages all these difficulties, these obstructions, and still comes. Because a thief is like that, right? They're expert.
Ninja.
Yeah, exactly. Very expert. Uninvited and overcoming so many oppositions, a thief comes. Naturally, we are accustomed to have so many barriers in us to protect. What are these barriers? To protect our exploitation, so nothing shall disturb our exploitation, our exploiting business of different types. And then so many barriers are there for renunciation also. But he doesn't care for all these blockades, and he comes and captures our heart. So that is our solace, that he's a thief. Otherwise, we have no hope. We're in such a position that there is within us at every step a barrier, that is, our samskaras, gross and subtle. And that is superstition, the knowledge and conception of separatism, separate interests from the Lord. He's said superstition, because the superstition is not true, right? Which is guarding us. But only because he's a thief, he doesn't care for any of these various barriers. He will come anyhow and steal our heart.
How to make him come to someone like you have to say, that person has something very valuable in the house. like if you have a friend, how do you make Krishna come into his heart?
I don't know.
Well, he could offer a friend.
You say, he has something really nice at home, something very valuable,
Krishna not a doll of your imagination? And the devotee then he asks, Guru Maharaj, while preaching, sometimes people ask us, have you seen Krishna? If you've not seen Krishna, how can you preach about him? And Guru Maharaj says, is it very easy to see Krishna? He's not a doll of my concoction, of my eternally forgetful nature. Who is Krishna? Long silence there. Who is Krishna? It is not such an easy thing, the Krishna conception. He's everywhere and he's nowhere. When we are searching for him, then we can take it that he is everywhere. This kind of thinking is also not eliminated. But we have to rather think that he's nowhere. That is, we are encouraged to think he is in Guru Vaishnava. We are to try to see like that. To me, he's nowhere, but to my Guru, he's everywhere. We are to mould ourselves in such a way, then we have some real acquaintance with him. And that also, always, he is just on the head of my Guru. So when we cannot have any direct vision of the Lord, if I try to see him on the head of my Guru, then he comes with him to me. And then this is that previous part about the Mahaprabhu's dream. Okay, with that, the work of Yogamaya. So I won't read it, but there's a long footnote there about Yogamaya, who is Yogamaya and everything. So in his talk with Ramanand Roy, Mahaprabhu says, that was that verse, Jekale Vasvapane, in my dream. He says, when Krishna gave his sight to me, two enemies came to capture me, Anand, some sort of ecstatic feeling, and Madan. My heart was captured by an unprecedented pleasure, inestimable pleasure. And they got the upper hand and disturbed me, disturbed my perception of him. Ananda, Madan Mohan, and Harilila Moraman. I was disturbed by these two feelings in me, so I could not have a proper estimation about him. So the point is, his whole thing is you want to have a darshan to see Krishna, but then when, just in a moment, I got his sight, but that was immediately obscured by these two, what he's calling enemies, because they're obscuring my vision of him.
When was that? Enjoyment
And Cupid. But if in the future I get such a chance, then I shall try to satisfy time so that he may not pass like lightning. Right? So if I can pray to time, which is Kala, manifestation of Krishna, then time will stop in that moment. So I'll be able to have his darshan. Time's coming and going is like lightning. He doesn't stay. Like lightning, past. So if I can fix time, if I get another chance, I shall try to satisfy time so that he will stay for some time, and then I will try to have a conception about him, Krishna. So this is in Mahaprabhu's just come out of his samadhi, so he's in an ecstatic mood. It's not like a normal thing that someone would say. It's an ecstatic, like speaking in his, like, eccentric, like a kind of madness or, So this is the work of Yogamaya. In the spiritual world, there is the relativity in the absolute, in the pastimes of the Lord. And so many arrangements for the Lord. They're the work of Yogamaya. So time is part of the, you can say, paraphernalia of the Lord. So again, on this theme of indirect approaching to the Lord, the strategy of searching for the Lord indirectly, trying to satisfy the paraphernalia, the things that are with the Lord, then we will have a better chance. Just as when a king is to come to a certain place, it depends mainly on his paraphernalia, not so much on him. His associates will say, yes, you can go there, it is quite safe, and you'll be welcomed, given reception with dignity by them. All such arrangements and such paraphernalia, they're very important, indispensable, and intrinsic in the pastimes, and they are under the management of Yogamaya. Krishna is infinite, and his paraphernalia is infinite. A king means he has got a lot of paraphernalia, high paraphernalia, and Yogamaya manages it. As Mahaprabhu prayed he would be able to propitiate time, we shall try to satisfy the paraphernalia. Captured by love. Oh, this is the last part. And he, Krishna says, though I'm independent, still practically I'm dependent on, I'm obliged to my devotees who have left everything for me. An example of that just comes to mind, maybe slightly different, but about service and the paraphernalia about Mother Yashoda, and when she was breastfeeding Krishna, and she put him down, to stop the milk boiling over on the stove. So someone might say, well, surely that's the most direct service you could possibly imagine. Krishna taking the breast milk, and she's apparently stopping that to do a more indirect service of the milk boiling on the stove. But then the thinking is like this, that milk boiling on the stove is to make the sweets by which Krishna will be served in the future, because Krishna likes the sweets so much, especially stealing them. So arranging for the future service of Krishna that can go on and continue, she's apparently stopping the immediate service or service necessity for that. Yeah, maybe something similar, but of course that's in the side of Leela. But so the verse from Krishna, from this... Srimad Bhagavatam, 9.463. This is after the pastime with Ambarish Maharaj and Devasa Muni, after the whole thing. And then when Devasa begged forgiveness and was forgiven, and the Sudarshan Chakra withdrew, and he was praising, Devasa was praising Ambarish and the devotees of the Lord, saying they're so merciful. He didn't take any offence or see any fault, Ambarish. And then Krishna said, Aham bhakta paradino yavash tantra hiva dvija sadubir grasta hridayo bhakta jana priya. Although I'm free, I still feel as if I'm subordinate to my devotees' affection. My devotee surrenders everything and expects nothing in return without my sanction. How can I not give myself to such surrender? This is Guru Maharaj's. I'll read the direct translation from the text given in Srimad Bhagavatam by Swami Maharaj. I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not independent. I sit within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotees? Even those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. And then Guru Maharaj is saying, although I'm free, I still feel as if I'm subordinate to my devotees' affection. My devotee surrenders everything and expects nothing in return without my sanction. How can I not give myself to such surrender? Although constitutionally I'm free, still their attraction, affection, earnestness, sincerity and dependence capture me. Attracted by my devotees' love, I offer myself at their behest. They have left everything for me. How can I cross over them and do anything whimsically as I like? So the clever person who's got some idea of devotion, they will go more to the Lord's devotee than to him, not the direct approach. Krishna himself says of his devotees, they can sell me, take me to the market and sell me. Mahaprabhu said about Vasudev Dutt, his devotion to me is so intense, he can sell me in the market. Wherever Vasudev makes a market about me, I go there. I am so indebted and so closely connected with him. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite par, tomar shakati ache, ami to kangal, Krishna Krishna boli, dhai tava pache pache, from O Vaishnav Thakur. O Vaishnav Thakur, Krishna is yours, you are able to give him to me, for such is your power. I am indeed wretched and simply run after you, crying, Krishna, Krishna. In this way, Bhaktivinoda is looking for the favour of his Guru, and he in his turn is looking for the favour of his own guru. So a telescopic system, and that is the reality. And the peculiarity is that the value of that reality is not diminished, but is enhanced. So there is Bhakta Sangha, association of the devotee, and Krishna Sangha, to have the association of Krishna. But that Krishna Sangha, it is abstract, mostly. So Shastra has given more stress on the association of the devotees. Try to see him there, in the devotee. That is concrete to you. And next, Shastra. So, Sadhu Shastra Kripai. Try to get the mercy of the Sadhu and Shastra. Jai.
To give mercy of the sadhu, this is like more or less understandable. But how to get the mercy of Shastra?
Well, probably, like Prabhu said, like by praying, praying to Shastra as a manifestation of Krishna. Krishna, like non-different form of Krishna, in the form of the Word. And the Word was in the beginning, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So Vedaischa Savam Aham Veda Vidya. The Veda comes from Krishna, so it's a manifestation of Krishna also. But it's indirect in the sense that it's considered like passive, whereas the sadhu is like more active, isn't it? But it doesn't have to be passive, it depends on the perception of the devotee. So when that illiterate Brahmin was, looking at the Bhagavad Gita, couldn't even read the words, he was illiterate. But just remembering the Krishna and Arjuna discussion, he's like in ecstasy. So that is totally real to him. Not something that happened 5,000 years ago and recorded in the book. So it can be like that. But generally speaking, for us conditioned souls, the sadhu is first importance, then Shastra, then Murti, in that order. Murti is also manifestation of the Lord. And of course Nam, the Nam, different ways, but so who's chanting then? Somebody else.
Hari Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama.
Hari Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namo.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya. Padma Gauriya. Hari Bol. Hare Nam Sankirtan Kohinatam Bhagas. Hare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasti Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Follow. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Nitai Gaura Hare Bol. Hare Bolo. Hare Bol. Bolo Hare Bol. Nitai Gaura Hare Bol. Hare Bolo. Bolo Hare Bol. Hare Bol. Jai Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Mahaprabhu Giriraj Prabhu ki jai. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Todiya Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari 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 Gaur.